Most people think saving cash is responsible, smart, safe, something parents teach quietly, like a moral rule. Put money aside, don't touch it, wait. My name is RJ. Today, we're talking about something uncomfortable, but necessary. Why saving cash feels pointless now, why that feeling isn't imaginary, and what actually works instead, not in theory, but inside the system we're all trapped in right now. Let me start with a small scene. It's the same one playing out in millions of homes. Salary hits the account, you feel relief. You transfer a portion into savings. You tell yourself you're being disciplined. And then, weeks later, prices quietly move up. Rent, groceries, fuel, subscriptions you forgot you even had. Nothing dramatic happens. No crash, no headline, just a slow leak. And one day you notice something strange. Your savings balance is higher, but your life feels tighter. That's the first crack. Because the problem isn't that people stopped saving. The problem is that saving cash stopped doing what we were promised it would do. For most of modern history, saving worked. You earned, you stored value. Time rewarded patience, but that contract has been rewritten. Not announced, not voted on, just updated in the background. And right now, a lot of people feel it, even if they can't explain it. This matters now because we're living through a quiet shift, not a crisis you see on TV, a structural one. Inflation isn't the villain everyone thinks it is. It's the symptom. The real story is how money itself works today and how cash fits into that story. Let's strip this down without jargon. Money used to be scarce. It was hard to create. That scarcity protected savers. Now money is abundant. Too abundant. Governments don't print money the way movies show it. They borrow it into existence. Banks create it when loans are issued. Digits appear. Debt expands. This isn't corruption, it's design. And once you understand that design, saving cash starts to look less like safety and more like standing still on a moving walkway going backwards. Here's the uncomfortable part. Inflation doesn't need to be high to hurt you. It just needs to exist consistently. If inflation averages 6% and your savings earn 3%, you're losing 3% every year. Quietly, predictably. No one sends you a bill for it. Your bank statement looks fine. The number goes up. But purchasing power goes down. That's the trick. Your money doesn't disappear. Its usefulness does. And here's the irony. The more disciplined you are with cash, the more exposed you become to this effect, because cash is static in a system built on movement. Now zoom out. Why is inflation persistent? Why does it never truly go back to zero? Because modern economies are addicted to growth, debt-funded growth. Governments need expansion to service past promises. Corporations need expansion to satisfy shareholders. Markets expect expansion because they've been trained to. Stagnation breaks things, so inflation becomes a feature, not a bug, a controlled release valve, and savers are the pressure source. Every year, a little value is transferred from people holding cash to people holding assets. That's not conspiracy, that's arithmetic. Let's talk timelines. In the 1980s, interest rates were high. Savings accounts paid real returns. Cash competed with assets. Today, rates chase inflation instead of beating it. Even when rates rise, they rarely stay above inflation long enough to matter. So the old advice survives, but the environment that made it true does not. This is where confusion sets in. People are told, save more, spend less, be patient. And yet, those who follow this perfectly often fall behind those who don't, not because they're careless, but because they're playing by outdated rules. Now here's where it gets dangerous. Disillusionment pushes people to extremes. Some stop saving entirely. Some gamble. Some chase hype. Crypto, options, day trading. That's not the solution either. The system punishes inactivity, but it also punishes recklessness. So what actually works? Not secrets, not hacks. Alignment. The key shift is understanding that cash is no longer a wealth-building asset. It's a tool. Cash is for liquidity, time, flexibility, emergency buffer, opportunity fund, psychological safety. That's it. Expecting it to preserve long-term value is asking it to do a job it no longer does. We need to stop treating cash like land and start treating it like oxygen, essential, but not something you store forever hoping it grows. Wealth today grows by owning parts of productive systems, businesses, assets that adjust with inflation, things that have pricing power. This is where people get uncomfortable because it sounds risky, but here's the twist. The biggest risk now is pretending risk doesn't exist. Cash feels safe because it doesn't move, but in a dynamic system, stillness is exposure. Assets feel volatile because prices change, but over time, volatility often hides adaptation. Let's ground this. A business can raise prices. A landlord can adjust rent. A company can innovate or cut costs. Cash can do nothing. It waits. That's the asymmetry. And here's the quiet humor in all this. We trust money less the more we have it of it, because deep down we sense the leak. People don't obsess over inflation when they're broke. They obsess when they save, because that's when the erosion becomes visible. Now, none of this means never save. That's lazy thinking. It means redefine the role of saving. Save to survive shocks, save to buy time, save to reduce panic, but invest to keep up with the system you're inside. This doesn't require genius, it requires acceptance. Acceptance that money is no longer neutral, it has a direction, and that direction isn't friendly to idle cash. Here's another uncomfortable truth. The system doesn't reward effort directly. It rewards positioning. Hard work matters, but only if paired with ownership. That's why two people earning the same income can end up worlds apart. One saves diligently, the other converts surplus into assets. Same discipline, different outcomes, and the gap widens quietly. This is why saving feels pointless, because emotionally it still feels virtuous, but mathematically it's incomplete. So, zoom out one last time. What happens if this continues? More people disengage. More people feel the rules are rigged. Trust erodes, not because anyone stole their money, but because the promise attached to saving was never updated. We weren't told the terms changed, and that's the real issue. Not inflation, not markets, not even policy. It's the mismatch between old advice and new reality. So here's the question I'll leave you with. If cash no longer protects time and assets increasingly decide who keeps up, what does responsibility actually look like now? Because the system isn't slowing down and standing still isn't neutral anymore. It's a choice.